Hello there guys, thanks as always for passing by the channel, much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. Don't forget as well please to like and share the videos. Big shout out to everyone who's been doing that so far. You guys are amazing. Welcome back to another video. A bit later than usual, and I would want to be uploading my kind of thoughts on a boxing and UFC fight. The reason was because yesterday I was doing a bit of work with my mum, not here, further away. And I didn't have time to watch the UFC until late in the evening, so I had to like stay off my phone, so I didn't know the results, and I just got to watch it and make some notes last night. So yeah, we're doing it today. Happy Monday. But first off, we'll look at Dillian Whyte and Povetkin 2, because that was great. The undercard was all right. Some standout performances from Ted Cheeseman, that was a great fight. Campbell Hatton, Ricky Son, great performance, great wins from those two. Wardley versus Molina, that was a bit boring. Molina needs to retire. That guy looked awful. And Wardley really needs to learn to keep his hands up. I mean, his left was literally hanging low, like it wasn't even there. Yeah, not good discipline, but I suppose he'll learn that in time. Kumari versus Baker is another one which springs to mind. That was a good little scrap. Great performance from Kumari as well. There was another great KO from that Lithuanian lad, Andrius Ruzas, I think his name was, Stephen Adenton, on his professional debut of all fights. Oh, bless him. But there was no need for a 10 count there, like, no need at all. That guy was out cold. That Lithuanian's got some power, like, KO of the night, in my opinion. And after that, we went to the main event, Whyte vs Povetkin 2. I enjoyed this fight. A lot. I would have to say, probably the best Dillian Whyte performance I've seen. Certainly the most kind of electric since the Lucas Brown fight. He looked good in there. He landed some clean right hands, then finished off with his signature left hook, as he likes to do. Good performance. He's beaten those demons of that defeat that he had in the first fight, and his jab particularly was brilliant. One thing I noticed actually when they did the weigh-in, Dillian Whyte's got long arms. Like he could probably pull his socks up without even bending down. Like his arms are proper long, aren't they? But like, unlike this is the difference of why I like that performance so much. Whereas you compare AJ's defeat to Andy Ruiz to his rematch, AJ completely changed his style, changed his training camp, changed everything. Dillian Whyte literally said, you know what, no, I'm not changing anything. I'm just going to stick to who I am. I've learned from my mistakes. I'm going to implement them in the next fight, and I'll get the win. And he did just that. All he did was improve on what he was already good at. You know, because even the commentators were saying, just stay behind the jab. Sometimes you've got to fight and box boring. Dillian Whyte doesn't do boring. So I'm really glad, because I said in my preview, I thought this was going to be a 12-round kind of snooze fest with Dillian just kind of staying behind the jab and moving around, and Povetkin trying to get in. But no, he brought in, and immediately from the get-go, these two just went each other like a pair of bulls, and it was fantastic. Povetkin, though, he looked unsteady. He was all over the place from minute one. He was Bambi on ice stuff from him in that fight. His legs, his balance, he just seemed unsteady and completely off balance. Not taking any credit from Dillian Whyte. I do think part of that is due to Povetkin contracting coronavirus back in January, I think it was. I think that has had quite a big effect on him, because you could see that he was breathing very heavily almost immediately from, certainly halfway through round one. He was already like, I know people will say that's his age, but I think that played a big factor as well. But not taking anything away from Dillian, because the fight was much better than I thought, like I said. And it would have been very easy for Dillian to just make it a boring rematch where he just kind of dragged it out and made it an easy win. But instead, he brought his aggressiveness. He got stuck in. He finished him off. It was like a knockout. He knocked him out. I also don't think it was an early stoppage either. I know there was a lot of people frustrated saying that it was an early stoppage. I don't think so. I mean, for one, you saw the towel come in from Povetkin's camp. They could see that something wasn't right with him. And two, he was just eating punches from Dillian Whyte. Like, literally, I mean, Dillian. Dillian is like a wild dog. He's not going to hold back. He's just going to keep bringing it. So and Povetkin was just eating punches in that. Eating. There was no head movement from him, which was a surprise, because Povetkin is usually quite nimble and kind of, likes to dip and peekaboo style. So it was, yeah, it wasn't his best performance at all, but Dillian Whyte looked brilliant, you know, so well done to him. What next for the pair of them? For Povetkin, he might be done. I think him contracting COVID played a large part in his poor career, poor performance, sorry. But you could tell he was breathing heavily, his balance was off, his legs looked wobbly almost. As soon as Dillian clocked him with the jab, you could see he just seemed to wobble, and he just kind of was, you know, slipping and sliding. So it wouldn't surprise me if he retires. His corner could see that he was getting beat up. Credit to him though, because what I will say, Povetkin will go down as a fantastic boxer. Like, just look at his resume. Go on Wikipedia and check out his resume. You know, world champion, multiple world amateur titles, European titles. You know, he's been a kickboxer. People forget Povetkin used to be a world champion kickboxer as well. Like, solid. So a solid career. But you know, that is seriously impressive. For Dillian Whyte though, he's back in the game. Literally, he's back in there. He's much like AJ after AJ beat Ruiz, how AJ got his titles back, and it was like, all right, that loss is now forgotten about. This loss is now almost forgotten about. Although I don't think it will be as forgotten as AJ's, because AJ at least has changed his style, whereas Dillian hasn't. So I think people will still look at Dillian and think he can be knocked out. But, you know, the big question for me is, who's he going to face next? You know, and I've got a couple of, well, I know who I would prefer. You know, AJ and Tyson Fury, we can cross off that list immediately. I don't want Dillian to face either of them, because I want them to face each other first. So let's forget about AJ and Fury. For me, the two names which I want most, Deontay Wilder or Andy Ruiz. I think either of those two are a perfect match for Dillian Whyte right now, because they're both big fights. You know, they're both pay-per-view. They both would sell the fight. Dillian definitely, because you know Dillian loves to talk smack about Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz. You've seen it, you know, you just go on his social media. He's always rinsing on those two, and it's class. And he's been calling for these fights for a long time. Plus, as well, it's a step up from Povetkin. You know, Dillian Whyte's actually one of those where, if you look at his career, he's actually, you know, going from strength to strength. I say the only time he's dipped is when he faced Vac after facing Oscar Rivas. But I think that was because there was that whole B sample controversy and all that kind of patter. Whereas, like, now, if he goes from Povetkin and fights a Wilder or Ruiz, I don't know if I'm not saying he beats either of them, because I'm not too sure. He could definitely cause them some problems, but that's a big step up. And yeah, it gets his name out there even more. It gets his status up. He could fight in America, which I don't think he's done yet. So for me, either of those two are a no-brainer. Two potentially great fights. I know Dillian spoke about AJ because he wants the rematch, and I do think he should get the rematch at some point, but after AJ has fought Fury. Like, AJ Fury needs to happen. Just look at my, you know, top 5 fights that need to happen in 2021. AJ Fury's number 1. I'll go to link that in this video. There was also talk of Dillian Whyte facing Trevor Bryan, but in my opinion, that is a huge downgrade from Dillian Whyte. Huge. So Ruiz or Wilder next, please, Mr. Dillian Whyte, if you ever watch this, which you probably won't, but them two next. So after that great fight, yesterday I got to watch the UFC, Stephey versus Ngono 2. Another fight which ended with another massive KO. Like, Ngono is just showing that he has got some destruction in them punches of his. Also, as well, I want to point out great wins for Sean O'Malley and Vincent Luke. I have to be honest, those two were the only other two fights that really stuck out to me. There wasn't much else. But those lads, Sean O'Malley I'm a big fan of, so I'm glad those lads performed well. But back to Stipe versus Ngannou. This was a much improved Francis Ngannou from the first fight. He looked very impressive. He avoided the takedowns. He used his strength and power well. He seemed to have more kind of controlled aggression rather than just kind of wild swinging and punching. The way Stipe fought, it looked like he might have underestimated Francis from the first fight. He certainly underestimated how much Francis had improved. He had one game plan, and within 2 minutes that game plan was out the window. It was shattered. He didn't really have any backup. He clearly was just trying to go for the takedowns. And as soon as Ngannou clearly had worked on his takedown defense, as soon as Ngannou stopped that first takedown, it was like, that's it. Stipe has run out of ideas. The fact that Stipe had come in lighter as well, that showed in the takedown because attempt. He just didn't have the same strength as before, and I hate seeing someone like that go out because, you know, big respect to Stipe. I have to say, like, although he lost, I think he's one of the most underappreciated UFC champions in modern history. Let's hope he recovers, comes back stronger. I'd love to see the trilogy, even though I'd put Francis to win that again. But I think a heavier Stipe can cause Francis some problems, a lot of problems. So, you know, it's who knows. But for Francis Ngannou, I mean, he's just a monster, really. He's a knockout artist, and he's actually building up quite a following as well. You know, the whole kind of African champion region, you know, kind of with him, Izzy and Kamara Usman, it's like kind of these African champions who are kind of entering the UFC, and I bet he's huge back in Cameroon. And Ngannou's technique has improved a lot. His wrestling was looking clean. Like I said, his takedown defense was so much sharper. It's scary. It's actually frightening to see such a powerful fighter displaying so much more skill now. Because he actually at times looked more skillful than Stipe, who was the more skillful fighter. So yeah, and also what's even more frightening, just before the KO, you see Stipe land a clean right hand on Ngannou's chin, and he literally just goes boom, just takes it. And then Ngannou, obviously, like in fact he didn't even flinch. Ngannou just lands a humongous left, puts Stipe down, and he was out, man. You could see his legs fall. You know, Ngono then brings down a massive hammer fist. I don't think that was necessary, but so credit to Ngono. His road to world champion has been a long one, and his whole story, you know, is really, you know, kind of incredible. In fact, he was homeless as a child. He worked on mines in Cameroon to then go on to be a UFC world heavyweight champion. That is nothing short of inspirational. Great story. What next for both, to be honest? For Stipe, I'd say he's still amongst it. Like, he'll need some time off to recover from that big knockout, but he can come back for sure. There's plenty of name. The heavyweight division is pretty stacked at the moment. There's quite a lot of talent. For Ngannou, I mean, there has only been one name, and one name alone, that has been mentioned alongside his over the weekend: Jon Jones. I mean, that is a fight of epic proportions. Epic. John would be up for that. I know Dana White was people tried to talk about it to Dana in the post-fight comments, and he was trying to avoid it, like somehow Jon Jones is scared. Nah, I don't think John ain't afraid of Ngannou. Like, that would be a fight that Jones would jump to immediately. He would take that in a heartbeat. So I don't think so. John wants the biggest name at heavyweight. At the end of the day, DC is retired. Stipe's just lost the belt. Derek Lewis would be another option for both fighters. I know Ngannou's fought Derek Lewis before and lost to him, so you know, there's a rematch there which could you know, potentially sell. I think he should be ranked number one as well, actually, because Stipe was the champion and Ngannou was 1 and Derek was 2. If Stipe's lost the belt, he should go down to like 4th or 5th. That leaves Derek Lewis number 1, Curtis Blades number 2. So Curtis Blades could be another option for Francis too. I think Derek Lewis would be a good match for Jon Jones because he's another one who's known for his punching power. So he could be like a warm-up before Jones fought Ngannou. Or maybe they do Francis Ngannou versus Lewis 2 and then have Jones versus Curtis Blades and then have the winners fight each other. That would be epic. Although Ngannou versus Jones would be, if I could make that now, that would be the one I'd have, because that would be epic. You know, John would sell the fight. You know, Ngannou with his new following, that fight would be massive. So really hoping Dana can get that fight sorted, because that would be incredible. Oh well, so just overall, just a great weekend of heavyweight action in boxing and UFC. Congratulations to Dillian Whyte for his win. Congratulations to Francis Ngannou for his win as the new UFC heavyweight champion. Commiserations to Stephey Povetkin. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Everyone go out and have a beer with your mates, because it's the 29th of March and in the UK the restrictions have lifted. So go and enjoy yourselves, and I will see you all soon. Peace and love.